So this video is about a pancreatic cystic neoplasm I had removed 1 year ago today, hence why I'm filming this video. I will start off by saying that this video is not child appropriate. When I got diagnosed with this, it was really hard for me to find information on it. There was maybe 3 podcasts on Spotify and not all of them had the particular thing that I had in them. There was like 1 or 2 videos on YouTube and there was only less than 5 scholarly articles on Google that I found about it. I'll just keep it very factual about what it is and then I'll go into my journey. I had a Muscinous Cystic Neoplasm, which was on the pancreas. So it's also known as a pancreatic cystic neoplasm. A neoplasm is a tumor. A tumor is the growth of cells that happens before they spread through the body and become cancer. So first off, they're rare. They're rare. So that was another reason why it was really hard for me to come across information about it. But apparently they're like a bit more common and we're starting to see them a bit more. What it is, it's an encapsulated, its own living thing really. And it's a mass and it's filled with like more cysts within the cysts. I saw it in my scan, solid parts and I could say this just before, hemorrhagic, I can't even say it, components. So basically it's its own living thing within there. Okay, so what it does is it starts really small in the pancreas. So it can be caused by injury to the pancreas or you can be born with it. In my case, I was born with it. So while I was evolving in the womb, some of my ovarian tissue got placed in the pancreas and it started forming a cyst. And so I've had this cystic tumor my whole life on my pancreas and I only found out like just over a year ago. So it's benign for a significant amount of time, which means it's not cancerous. And so you can just have it cut out. And if they get it all, then you're sweet. And there's a high survival rate. Like it's nothing to, if it's benign and, you know, obviously they're going to do surgery, you're sweet, okay? When it becomes malignant, which is cancer, I think that's a whole different story. But there's a high survival rate from the tumor and from the surgery. But if they don't get it all, it can regrow after resection, they call it, when they take it out. So it happens in young females. The average age that people are diagnosed with this is their late 20s to early 40s. So it most likely will happen during that time. So the average age of diagnosis is 28 and a half. I was 27 when I got diagnosed and when I found out. And it's asymptomatic for a very long time. And then how you find out about it is you get sudden onset abdominal pain, which is what happened to me. You can also get nausea, decreased appetite, and a little bit of jaundice, which at the time my skin was a little bit yellow and I was like, oh, what's going on here? So it doesn't cause any hormone imbalances. The most common spot for cancer is the liver. Anything bigger than 5 centimeters has a risk of cancer, which mine was 13 by 11 centimeters. Like it was big. It was big. It does not adhere to or invade other organs or vessels, which is so good. The only risk with the surgery, once the surgeon went in, was possibly losing my spleen as well, because on the scans it showed that the spleen was very close to the tumor and the veins and vessels going to the spleen may have been impacted by the tumor and may have been cut off during surgery. So I had that risk of losing my spleen, which if I did lose my spleen, that was another fear waking up that, oh my God, do I have my spleen? That was like my first question, like, did I lose my spleen? If you do lose your spleen, it then just means your immune system is basically not existent anymore. And you just have a course of antibiotics to take anytime you feel the tiniest bit of sickness, because you can die because your immune system is so low without your spleen. And it can burst or it can leak. Okay, so mine leaked twice, I think, and the liquid was disgusting. I will put a picture because I got to see the liquid. That's what it is. Okay, so with removal, you know, if you don't have cancer, if it's just a benign tumor, it's just a single growth, they will book you in for a surgery. You will go under surgery, you'll get it removed. So what they do is they staple your pancreas before the tumor, and then they obviously cut your pancreas to release the tumor. And then I had glue, lots of glue put on my pancreas where the staples were, and then they just sew you back up. So how my surgeon described it was your pancreas looks like this, all right, and it has a tail. So it can start real small and then it just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And so mine just got so big and it just overtook that part. Like apparently the tail end of the pancreas was hanging out of the tumor after it was resected. But yeah, so they just put the staples in. I had like 3 lines of staples. All right, they cut this off, release the tumor. The recovery of it depends, okay? You can either have a fine recovery and you're back to work within a month, or things might take a little bit slower, which is what happened to me. So when I woke up, I had all these tubes attached to me. I'll talk a bit about that later. But I also had a pancreatic drain, okay? So the drain was inserted down near my cut. It then went all the way, it was like that long, the tube inside me, and it was just sitting outside where the pancreas had been cut to suck up all the pancreatic fluid until the pancreas closed, okay? So it should close within 3 days. Mine didn't. Mine, even after 3 weeks, was still leaking. I had this drain attached to me. It really slowed down my recovery. I hated the drain. It was horrible. But after 3 weeks, they slowly remove the drain and then you're all good. You're sweet to go back to work. So they either do keyhole through your belly button or they'll cut you, which is what they did to me. I have a big L-shaped cut because it was too dangerous for them to do keyhole. Another thing after the surgery is because your pancreas has been cut in half or affected, you have a higher risk of becoming diabetic. So your insulin becomes affected. So they pretty much told me to just keep tabs on my blood sugar levels. So I went and bought a blood sugar device, which I had to prick my own fingers with needles every day and check my blood sugar, because the issue is that it gets too high. So if you start feeling really tired after you've had food, you know, you're at risk of being diabetic. So that's just another thing you need to look out for. Okay, so I'll now talk about my journey. I chucked some photos in here. That's me being very vulnerable. If you don't like gruesome things, do not look at these photos. There's a picture of my tumor in there and my scar and yeah, anyway. So in 2024, I had my surgery. In 2023, I started really focusing on how my gut felt. And I would get blow-ups. Like I would get real bloated. I would get abdominal pain and all of that. And I thought it was from gluten. And I've now worked out it's from garlic. But while going through all that, I then was massaging my belly. And I felt like something solid and hard. And I was like, this must be the last of the bloating. Like, I don't know what that is. And then I became a little bit suspicious of it. And I was like, oh, that's like really hard. It's bulging out. And then I was like, oh, is this something I've always had? And then I like went back and looked at photos of me when I was younger throughout the years, and like it's always been a bit bulgy on that side. And I was like, oh, okay. And then eventually it went away. The hardness went away. It was solid, like a rock in there, like solid, went away. And then I stopped worrying about it. And then the new year happened, and then I did I like to do a new year fast. So I did a new year fast, and then I was craving onion, right? And so I just like pumped the onion for like a week. And then I was laying in bed, and again, like massaging my belly had become a thing. And I just saw this massive lump on my left side, and I was like, oh, maybe that's from the onion. Anyway, I've taken a photo of it, and I'm like, oh, like, hope this isn't cancer. And people are like, you should get that checked out. So I thought it was like a food allergy or a food intolerance. So I'm doing food intolerance tests. I'm doing food allergies tests. I started FODMAPing. I started going into all that. So I'd already started that journey. And then I was going to go and explore this later on if it hadn't surpassed in a few weeks or a month or whatever. I was going to go and get it checked out. But this all happened before I got to that point. So mine came on as just sudden abdominal pain, and I'm talking excruciating pain. It was like 8 out of 10. I have a pretty high pain threshold. So I remember it. I was just walking through work at school, about to go to class, and it just come on like that. And I was like, I can't even stand up. Like I was really struggling. So suffered through it because I'm like, this will go away, because I've like never been to the hospital, hardly seen the doctor growing up, never had any health issues. And so I was like, oh, it will go away, it will go away. Anyway, the next day, that happened on a Thursday. Friday, I went to work in excruciating pain, couldn't even bend over, couldn't even walk. The Friday night, I rang my mum and I was crying, and she's like, you should go to the hospital. And I was like, no, like I need to come home. And for my birthday, this happened right around my birthday, my 27th birthday. And I had all these plans anyway. I drove like 5 hours in excruciating pain, and then I was in tears. I just couldn't take it anymore. And I said like to mum, you're going to have to call the ambulance. Anyway, the ambulance came and got me, and I was like, I'm not being a sook. Like I've never been to hospital in my life, like rah, rah, rah. And so then I waited a while in emergency, and then the doctor finally saw me. It was like 1 a.m. And he was like, oh, we think you might have an enlarged spleen. So he was like, come back in the morning and we'll do an ultrasound. So then I went home and I was Googling enlarged spleen and rah, rah, and it seemed okay, whatever. And then I went back for the ultrasound, and again, I was in so much pain, and it was so bad when they were pushing on it. And she was like, oh yeah, like there's definitely something there. So then the doctor come and saw me, and he was like, oh, we think you have a pancreatic cyst. And so I'm Googling pancreatic cysts, and like they're literally coming up like this tiny, and the way you get them removed is by a needle. They put a needle through your stomach into the pancreas where the cyst is, and they just suck the fluid out, really, or you just go on a monitoring thing. So I was like, oh, like I don't want to get a needle through my belly. That was the thing I was worried about, a needle through my belly. Anyway, so that's what Google's telling me. It's like that tiny, like they're these tiny little cysts in your pancreas, right? And so then he was like, oh, you can stay here and get administered, and we'll get you an MRI, or you can go home, which I suggest you do if you can drive, and get the MRI there. So I went and got an MRI done, went back to the doctor, and then the doctor's like, oh yeah, it's like 11 centimeters by 13 centimeters. Big. So it's massive. And it was like, I could feel it. I could feel it all around my belly. You could see the lump. It's probably why I got so much back pain. I hadn't heard my tummy rumble in years because it was taking up a lot of my body, and I'm only tiny. And so then she was like, okay, we now need to send you for a CT scan to see if you have cancer. And so I was pretty chill throughout the whole time. I did have some really rough days, some absolutely rough days. And then the day I went in to find out if I had cancer or not was the scariest day of my life. One of them. And yeah, like I prepared myself so badly that it was just, she's going to come back and say cancer. Because I used to before I found this out, I used to walk around and be like, oh, imagine like walking around and having cancer and not knowing. And I used to Google like signs that you have cancer, and none of them would show up. So I was like, oh no, I'm all good. But like I knew somewhere something was trying to tell me that something was like not okay. So I didn't have cancer, thank the heavens, because oh my God, like I thought I was prepared to hear you have cancer one day, but until that day when I went in to get my results, like I realized I don't think anyone can be prepared to hear those words come out of the doctor's mouth, like you have cancer. And I'm so grateful I didn't have cancer, because like the surgery and recovery alone, just from having the one thing removed, was so full on. Like I can't imagine having multiple surgeries or multiple like things cut out and then having to get hit with radiation and chemo when you already are like feel like you're dying. Like my heart goes out to anyone going on that journey. Like it really makes me so sad. So yeah, didn't have cancer, and then it just became this waiting game of trying to get into the surgeon. My doctor was like, oh, you'll be having surgery within a month. No, it was 6 months it took me to get my surgery date. It could have been quicker than that had I not gone to Europe, but he was like, go to Europe, live your best life. There's not any other injury you can do besides it leaking, which it did leak, and oh, it's so painful when it leaks. And then he was like, when you come back, we'll do your surgery, because if anything goes wrong as well, you won't be going to Europe, like cutting it real tight. I came back from Europe, and within 2 weeks I was going to I had surgery. So I had surgery at John Hunter. I can't fault them or my surgeon. They were amazing the whole time. Dr. David Barnett is who I saw. He's like the specialty doctor in pancreatic tumors. I caught the train down the night before. I stayed in the hospital accommodation, and then early the next morning I went in. I was first up, so obviously got changed into the surgical gown and then got wheeled into the pre-theatre thing. Yeah, I had a drip in my hand, and then they had to put a needle into my artery. I'm not good with needles, but I was so chill when I went in. I was like, I just surrendered. Like I didn't even feel the pain from all these needles. I was like, just get me good. Like I just want this thing out, do it. Yeah, needle in my artery. And then I had to get an epidural, and the first time they did it, the needle didn't go in the right spot, so I had to get it again. And after that, I couldn't feel a thing from the waist down. Like when they wheeled me into the theatre, they were like, can you get up and move to this other bed? And I was like, nah. And then I was out like a light. So when I woke up, I was in recovery. So the surgery, it either took 6 or 8 hours. I can't remember, but it was long day surgery. So when I woke up, I was hooked up to like the machine thing. So I was on a drip. I had nerve blockers in. I had a pain clicker thing. I had the pancreatic drain. I had a catheter in. And was that all? But basically I had so many tubes hooked up to me, couldn't move. I felt so nauseous after the surgery. Like I was the most relaxed I've ever been in my life, and all I wanted to do was go to sleep, but I felt so nauseous from the anesthetic. And I did so well to drink so much water, and then I just vomited. It was just clear fluid water come back up, but it all came back up. And I could have cried because I tried so hard to get hydrated. So yeah, the first night, like, I didn't use that pain button at all because I didn't need to. Like, the anesthetic from the epidural and the surgery, like, still had me numbed, plus the nerve blockers. So we were going good. And then, so that was about 24 hours. And then the next day, the lady came in and she was like, all right, we're going to get you up. And meanwhile, I just had this cut, this massive cut with too many stitches to count, the surgeon said. And he was really worried about cutting me. And he was like, but it's the only safe option, really. And I said, I don't care. Like, I just want to wake up. Because my biggest, I realized I had this fear that the first fear was dying on the table. But I'm like, okay, if I die there, whatever. But the second fear, and this is probably my greatest fear I've worked out, is waking up during surgery. Oh my God. I had the biggest fear of that happening. Just a little note, if you have a red hair gene, you need to tell them that because apparently they need to give you extra anesthetic because it's like more likely that people with this red hair gene will wake up during surgery. Don't even want to talk about it. They took my catheter out and they're like, oh, we're going to like get you up. And I was like, oh, I can't get up. Anyway, I was swearing, and every time I had to get up, it was so painful. It was really painful. Anyway, so I spent a week in hospital. I was only meant to spend 3 days, but my pancreas was not closing. It was just leaking. So they kept me in there, and then they eventually sent me home with the pancreatic drain. So I had to walk around for 2 weeks while I was at home with this pancreatic drain. My mum come and picked me up and brought me home, and she stayed with me during this time because I was on bed rest. Like, I couldn't even walk. Like, you realize how much you need your core for when you walk. Like, I couldn't walk. I was like hunched over because like my abdomen had just been like torn to shreds. Not shreds. But torn, like cut up, right? It's all being disjointed. So yeah, like I couldn't even walk. I looked like an old woman, and I'm just carrying around this drain full of pancreatic juice. And anyway, it was a really fun time. No, it wasn't. I hated it. And I was in a lot of pain. I was in so much pain. So I am someone who's really stubborn with using pain meds. But while I was in hospital, like once the pain kicked in, I then started pressing that button. And when they took that away, because I wasn't using it much, they then gave me an oral tablet. So I started using that, and I made sure to stay on time and get it however many hours meant to. And then they sent me home with some endone, and I didn't touch it. And so when I went to the doctor, she was like, have you been having the endone? And I was like, oh, like I've had it once or twice, but it hasn't worked. And she's like, okay, well, like we'll up the dose, but you need to take it. So I would go throughout the day not having it, but then come the nighttime, like I was so over the pain and I just needed some relief to go to sleep. So I would have the endone, and I just remember like melting. I'm like, oh my God, it's so good not to be in pain. So that was my life for a few weeks, actually, because I was a few weeks off work. So then it came time for the drain to come out. Oh, I missed this part. They had to like recover my stitches, and then peeling off that sticky adhesive off my huge scar. Oh my God, that hurt so much. So that's not fun either. That part really hurt, and I was swearing throughout that. I was like, please don't mind me, but I'm like trying my best here, but this hurts. So then it came time for the drain to come out. So the surgeon FaceTimed me, and we did a slow self-removal at home. We had to cut the tube of the drain and put this bag on the end of it. So the same tube was still in me, but there was no long tube anymore and then the drain. Like, it was just this bag thing. Bag didn't last long. I think it was like a day it lasted, because once that stitch was undone, my body just started pushing that tube out. So come the next night, I was in so much pain because so much of this tube had been pushed out by my body. And I went to have a shower and I couldn't even bend over. I started crying. I rang my surgeon and I was like, I'm in so much pain. And it was because the tiniest bit of the tube was left in me and it was like sticking up. And while I was on the phone to him, it just fell out. He was like, oh, that's okay. Like, he knew that was going to happen. It's not meant to come out within a day. It's meant to take a few days to come out. But my body was like, get this out. And I felt so much relief the moment that was out. And I felt like now I could just fully recover. I think having that tube and that drain in me for so long really slowed down my recovery. So yeah, instantly felt so much better. And then I was still getting pancreatic juice leaking out of the hole where the drain was. My tumor was 1.4 kilograms, literally the size and weight of a rock melon. I got my surgeon to take a photo of it. I feel really vulnerable putting a photo of it on here, but I think I'm just going to keep this real and put some pictures on here of what happened to me. Yeah, and so then I went back to work and I've been good ever since. I haven't had any issues. I feel better. I don't have back pain. I don't have stomach issues the way I was. I don't have to go to the toilet all the time because it was pushing on my bladder so much that I was always going to the toilet. Yeah, like I'm doing better. But in saying that, like before the surgery, like that life was all I ever known. Like I only ever knew life with this tumor in me. And it was just wild to think that I had gone my whole life not knowing I had this. That to me was insane. I was born with it and like slowly had it growing. Like people say it like it's your first kid, like basically was like I raised it and like got it out of me. Anyway, so yeah, that's pretty much my story. But like I think after the surgery, I felt way more okay than what I thought I was going to go through. Like before the surgery, I was like preparing to die and to like, I was just in this catastrophic mindset that like things were going to go wrong and it's not going to be okay. But like, I think now having gone through that, I'd be fine to do it again, no worries. Like I know everything's going to be fine. It's nothing to stress about. But in saying that, like had I had cancer, like I would not be saying that. To go and get multiple growths removed and then be hit with chemo radiation, I think that is a path that I like, yeah, my heart goes out to anyone on that path. Like I do not wish that on anyone. And yeah, like I'm not saying I'm never going to get cancer. I could get cancer, but just having that as a possibility that could have been my life, because I had a 70% chance of my tumor turning cancerous. So I could have had cancer. I could have had cancer when it was found, or if it wasn't found and I went on to maybe like 5 years down the track, I could have had cancer like in my early 30s. So I'm just, touch wood, so grateful that that was not the journey for me. So yeah, I think that's pretty much everything I want to say about that. I can feel my throat chakra opening up because I'm getting a bit choked up and my throat's feeling a bit scratchy. Yeah, so that's all from me. Bye.